Hello everyone, today we are making stuffed bell peppers. So for this recipe, you will need any grain. I chose brown rice, chili powder, oregano, ground cumin, salt, 8 ounces of tomato sauce, any color of bell pepper of your choosing, any cheese, baking powder, 1 medium yellow onion, garlic, extra virgin olive oil, and I use 90-10 meat, but you could use whatever meat you like. First, we are going to wash away any unknown bacteria from our hands, so that way we have clean hands. And then we will wash our produce so it's free of pesticides and bacteria. If you don't know, pesticides is a substance used to kill insects and organisms that can affect our health. You are going to want to start by putting aside a cutting board and knife for later, just as we'll have to cut the vegetables on it. Preheat your oven to 425 degrees Fahrenheit so we can slightly soften the peppers so they have a little bit less of a bite. And then you are going to grab a medium-sized bowl so we can put the meat inside. If you ever need a durable packaged meat, I suggest choosing Nature's Promise because it took me about 10 minutes to open this package of meat. But here you will be seeing my roommate adding 1.5 teaspoons of salt to the meat just because I have meat on my hands. Here you will see my roommate adding 3/4 teaspoon of baking powder. If you do not have baking powder, that is okay. You could do 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda and that will work perfectly fine. The reason I chose 90% lean and 10% fat meat is because it has less saturated fat than an 80% lean and 20% fat meat. Since the meat is lower in saturated fat, it helps support heart health and lower cholesterol. Now, once you are done mixing your meat, you are just going to put it aside while you prep your other items. Of course, since we just touched raw meat and we are about to be touching fresh produce, we are going to wash our hands again, just so they can be clean and ready. Now we are going to cut the tops off of our peppers and take the seeds and membranes out on the inside so that they are hollow and they kind of resemble a little cup. And fun fact, bell peppers contain the most vitamin C out of any vegetable that there is. And vitamin C helps the immune system by producing white blood cells, which fight off infection. They also promote the formation of red blood cells, which help our wounds heal quicker. And they also produce collagen, which works to strengthen our skin and our bones. Stuffed bell peppers is one of my all-time favorite meals that my dad used to make me when I was a little girl. I personally love this meal because it's rich in nutrients, highly satisfying, and includes 4 of the 5 essential food groups: grains, protein, dairy, and vegetables, along with heart-healthy fats from the oil. Now we are going to take our yellow onion and peel it, and after it's all peeled, we are going to cut the top and bottom off of our onion so it doesn't roll away from us and it is easier to cut. I did not cut this in any specific way since they will be cooked down, but just make sure that they are small enough so that they will cook through. Thankfully, since I wear glasses, I was not crying all over the place, and the glasses act as a shield for my eyes, so I suggest if you are sensitive to onions, I would put something over your eyes. But just like peppers, onions are a good source of vitamin C, as well as fiber and many other nutrients. And onions can support immune function, just like peppers, reduce inflammation, and help with digestive health. They also just add tons of flavor to a meal, making it even more delicious than it already was. Now, after the onion is cut, I suggest cleaning the scraps up to keep a clean workspace, but you will soon find out later in the video that I have a really hard time keeping a clean workspace. Next, we are boiling 2 cups of water because we are making 1 cup of rice. It is a 2-to-1 ratio. If you want to make 2 cups of rice, I suggest boiling 4 cups of water. Now, rice is a great source of carbohydrates that supply energy and also contains fiber, which helps keep us full for much longer. I also add a little bit of salt to my water, but that is personal preference, but I would just boil the water on high heat until the rice needs to be put in. Now our oven should be preheated, so grab a glass oven-safe baking dish and a piece of tin foil and just place that on the bottom, and then add your peppers in, however you would like, and then just throw them in the oven for about 15 minutes. Now, while our peppers are roasting in the oven and the water for the rice is boiling, grab any type of pan that you have and throw in a little bit of extra virgin olive oil, and now it's time to put the onions in. So just stir the onions around and coat them with a little bit of oil and then let them sit. And now it's time to chop up our garlic. Now, just like we did with the onions, we will cut the top off of our garlic so we can access the 3 garlic cloves that we need easier. Now, garlic is really good for you. It might not taste good on its own, but it helps boost your immune system and can even help lower blood pressure. It also has natural stuff in it that fights off germs and keeps our bodies healthy. Plus, it adds a lot of flavor to our food. At this point, your water should be boiling, and if I thought that you could see that that was 1 cup, I don't know who I was lying to, but you are doing 1 cup of rice, as I said earlier, and then just throw that into your pot of water, lower it down to medium heat, and let it simmer until all the water is gone. Now, this is arguably my favorite part. You just take 1 garlic clove and put it underneath the knife and smack down with the heel of your hand so that way it breaks it apart and it's easier to chop. But please be careful while you're doing this step. Now it's time to give our onions a little bit of a good mix. It's important that you're mixing the onions frequently just so that they don't brown. Here I just opened the tomato can just so it's easier for later. Now you can add your garlic into the pan and giving that a little bit of a good mix. And now it's time to add your meat that has been sitting on the side. And I like to just chop it up into smaller bits just so that way it's easier to eat inside of the pepper. And then just give all of that a good mix around until the meat's cooked. Now here is where I'm going to be adding the ground cumin, chili powder, oregano, and a little bit of salt. Again, any of the amounts of seasoning that I use, it's completely to taste, and you can add however much or however little of seasoning you would like. And then once all your seasoning is in, again, just give it a good mix so that way the seasoning fully covers the onions, the garlic, and the meat. Now at this point my peppers were done in the oven and my rice was also done cooking, so I just put the rice off to the side and turned off the burner. Now, once my rice has cooled off a little bit, I just dumped it straight from the pot into the pan and gave that all a good little mix around. Now, of course, my roommate and I had to try it, so cheers! And it was delicious. Now, unfortunately, my phone did run out of storage, but here's me adding the tomato sauce. And after you add the tomato sauce into your mixture, you're just gonna mix it all around so the tomato sauce evenly coats everything that's in the pan. Now, once your meat is cooked and your mixture is fully covered in tomato sauce, you are going to take a ladle and scoop it into your peppers. You can add however little or however much mixture. I personally add a lot, I fill it to the top, but it is personal preference and completely up to you. Now, on top of my peppers, I like to add a little bit of chili powder just for some extra flavor, and now you can add the cheese on top. I added a little bit in this video, but trust me, I put a lot more off of camera because I love cheese. Now we could put our peppers in the oven at 425 degrees Fahrenheit for 20 minutes and make sure that you cover your peppers with tin foil. So since the peppers are going to be in the oven for 20 minutes, I use this time as my cleanup time. I'm just putting away the ingredients that I used as well as washing the dishes, so that way I don't have to do it after I eat, because after I eat, I kind of just want to go lay in my bed. Now, since we are using raw meat, it's really important to sanitize the surfaces that the raw meat was on, so I'm just spraying the counter and the stove so that way we don't get sick. And this whole cleanup process took me about 20 minutes, so now our peppers should be done and coming out of the oven, so I hope you all enjoy.